Now, this is going to be a fun episode. Episode number 56. We have comedian slash wrestler slash actor slash YouTuber Kit Parsons. I cannot wait to pick his brain about all the many, many hats that he wears. Hey, what are we waiting for? Let's get this show on the road.
These are the performers that I know. These are the performers that I know. These are the performers that I know. These are the performers that I know.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Performers I Know. This is episode number 56, and Kabuki. Yeah. Um, you won't get that reference until I introduce our guest for this episode. He is a comedian. He's an actor. He is a former wrestler. Yeah, and he is here in studio with us. Please welcome Mr. Kit Parsons. Kit, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, man. First of all, I really appreciate you reaching out for me to be on. I actually really love doing podcasts. When I was wrestling, I did them quite a bit, actually, and it's been a little while since I've hopped on someone's podcast, so I'm happy to be here.
Well, I'm happy to have you here. So, ladies and gentlemen, once upon a time, in my journey down the YouTube rabbit hole, I was looking up, just strange and wacky wrestling videos to kind of listen to while I'm at work. And a video by the name of So Bad It's Scary, Tennessee Wrestling 1990. And I'm like, oh, all right, let's see what this is about. Because I always like to watch stuff about old time wrestling. And when I tell you, I laughed my balls off. It was so very funny that even my boss was like, "What are you laughing at? What is so funny?" Like, I'll tell you later. So yeah, I have
I,
been. Go on.
I don't recommend playing my videos for your boss. They're not going to think it's as funny as you do. That's for sure.
I mean, I don't. I have a suspicion that if I showed them Mr. Chile and Sancho Panza, they'd be like, "Get out! Just get out!"
That's an appropriate response. That's it, especially to Mr. Chile. He's definitely my least favorite of all the Titans of the Ring from the early '80s.
Mm. Not to get sidetracked, but one of the moments that I remember from watching videos of Titans of the Ring, this one guy who was supposed to be like the mega face, like I guess the Hulk Hogan of the Titans of the Ring, he does a dive out of the ring, completely whiffs it, and knocks himself out. And it's like, oh, okay, well, I guess the match is over because this guy is now unconscious.
That's how far he's willing to go for the people. He's a man of the people, really.
A man of the people, yes. So I've been watching these videos and also commenting on them ever since. And yes, here we are. But Kit, my first question to you, as I ask all of my guests, what got you bitten by, well, not necessarily just the performing bug, but the wrestling bug,
Hmm.
the stand-up bug, the
Sure.
YouTube bug, a whole bunch of bugs, really.
Yeah, well, the wrestling deal, my uncle was a wrestler. And so I was going to his shows when I was like 5 years old and was immediately put to work. The first show I went to, I got to just watch, and I was scared to death of the bad guys. He still did it even in back then in the early '90s. He still did it old school, where like the good guys were in one locker room and the bad guys were in the other. And he was he was treating it like it was real to me. So I was genuinely afraid of the bad guys. And then after that first show, he's like, "Listen, come here, come on. He's Lord Zoltan. He's nice. come over. Like he just totally like killed the business for me as a kid. But I was grateful because I got to start working in it and taking like the guys' ring jackets back to the back after they did their entrance and little jobs like that. So I always wanted to be a wrestler. And then as I was going through high school, I was like a kind of a, not that there's anything wrong with this, but I was like a short, chubby kid for most of my tenure in school. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I got really tall, and I started exercise. I just happened to start exercising around that time, and so I was really going to get serious about this wrestling thing. And my teacher needed males for the play, which is like the typical story, right? Like I don't know if you've heard that joke of like, the female students like going to like, theater camp all their life and having like, all these private lessons and stuff, and then getting in the ensemble, and then like, the quarterback gets asked by the teacher to play Shrek.
I mean,
So
it around where I live, it's essentially, hey, are you a guy with a pulse? You're in.
yes, yeah, yeah, and that was it. So I had a speech class, and like I really got, I don't know, I just felt strangely. I've always had very low self-esteem. I've done a lot of work in therapy to help with that, but I felt strangely like if I just was as dramatic and acted as outgoing as possible during my speeches, even though I was terrified, it was just the easiest way to get through it, and it was. And the teacher was like, "Hey, you have to audition." And then as I was doing a couple of her shows my senior year, she was very complimentary and very, pointing out, like, hey, I think you have some natural timing. That's hard to teach. You should really look into theater. And so I kind of did both. Right after high school, I did wrestling, pro wrestling. Not when you say did wrestling, it sounds much more like athletic and like it's amateur wrestling. I did the big time stomp when you punch wrestling, and then a few years into that started branching out into theater, then got lost in theater for a while, then kind of did both full time for a while and whatever. But that's how that. And then the comedy thing, I always wanted to do improv and sketch comedy. I always liked that a lot, and I was terrible at it. I lived in Chicago. I moved there in 2013 for a few years, and I was awful. I was so awful, and I quit. I was at Second City, and I quit. I was like, I'm never going to get this. And then during the pandemic of all things, I started, I think I'd had a couple of adult beverages and was telling my wife, like, man, one of my big regrets was not going for it for improv and sketch. And she's like, all right, bud, like, do it. You're an adult, go do it. So I got back with Second City. I was driving every weekend from Ohio to Second City. And so it was like 14 hours round trip or something. And I did their full improv program. I did their full acting or their improv and acting conservatory, and I got to perform at Second City. And so I guess all those things kind of crashed together at once.
Wow, 14 hours. I hope you had a lot of audiobooks.
Lots of audiobooks, lots of podcasts. Yeah.
Well, now everybody has a podcast now,
Yeah.
including me.
Yeah.
But beggars can't be choosers. So that's what I call wrestling, where you dive into the absolutely most insane bunch of wrestling. How did this come about, and where are you finding all of this material?
Well, I mean, I have some help for sure. Not so much with the show, but with the footage. I've been a tape trader for decades. I mean, since I was a kid, I was trading wrestling tapes and ordering tapes from other countries that probably weren't, commercially correct, probably dubbed over from other tapes and just resold. And there was a lot of that. And then as things got more digital, I had friends that I met literally just through trading wrestling videos and getting old shows. And I have obsessive compulsive disorder, and it manifests in kind of some strange ways sometimes. And one of them is being a completionist. Like I really want, like when I was a kid, any wrestling show that was on TV, I would tape on a videotape and keep it because I was like, okay, well someday I'm going to want to watch this, or like, what if they never make these available to rewatch? Like I want to have it. So I've always had that, and so that's some of it. And it being digital makes it easier, but 10 or 11 years ago, we made a documentary because one thing that I also do is I'm a filmmaker, and I co-directed a couple of feature-length documentaries, and one of them was all about fandom. And as we were shooting this documentary, I met another guy. His name is Ed Davis, and he's a wrestling tape trader, and he's like the real deal. And like this guy has helped me out so much over the years. So I have just an ever growing, humongous archive of wrestling footage that I always thought would be kind of a waste because there's no chance I could ever watch everything that I have. Like it would probably be impossible. And one of the dreams that I had in my head was like someday my wife and I were going to buy like an RV and we're just going to live in it and drive around and like, take excursions and when we don't want to be at the house. And every Monday night, I'm going to put on Memphis wrestling from the 80s and I'm just going to watch a Monday night, my own Monday night wrestling. And I'm actually getting a lot of use out of the footage more than I ever thought by doing the YouTube show.
I mean, you really run the gamut of weird and wacky wrestling because you have the Titans of the Ring, you
Yeah.
got the Japanese hardcore matches, Memphis, and just well, probably my favorite subgenre of wrestling. Just really super basic, rinky dink, 10 people in the audience, indie
Yes.
wrestling
Yes.
where it's like, oh, okay, this was a thing that happened. Yeah.
Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's so it's a lot of times local access 80s and especially 90s wrestling where it's like, here's the key to it for me. Um, People will send me, and I don't mean to say this like people are just messaging me all the time, but like I do get video recommendations from people a lot. And sometimes they're really helpful. Like Titans of the Ring came from a couple of people from my Discord. And I was like, yeah, a few people had shared it. And I was like, I should check this out. And I was like, oh my God, this is perfect. Why didn't I listen sooner? um, but a lot of times people send me stuff. And here's the key to it to me. It will work on the show if it's genuine effort, right? Like if it's people who are trying their actual hardest to make a wrestling show and it's just not working, or maybe it worked for the time and doesn't work now, or whatever the case may be, that's when it clicks. If it's bad on purpose or it's half done or whatever, I'm not really interested in that. But like the thing about it is, I've spent most of my career, I guess, which sounds weird to say, but like I guess my career kind of looking at what I think everyone is doing, or at least my perception of it, and being like, well, how can I don't know, is there something different I can do? And I listen to a lot of people like Jim Cornette and stuff like that, who I've, have the pleasure to work with in my life and communicate with on occasion. And I noticed that I found myself listening to a lot of criticisms, right? A lot of people yelling about things, being very hypercritical, but in a funny way. And I was like, okay, well, I like that, but I don't want to be that. Like, I don't want to yell about stuff. I want to have fun with it. So I think it's always like critical, I guess, or maybe you could call it snarky, but it's with a smile. It's with love. Like I'm definitely, well, you can't help but laugh at some of these things, but I just appreciate it so much. Like it is my favorite wrestling. 5-star match, I don't have time for it. What a waste of time. Why would I sit here for an hour and watch your 5-star fake match? I don't care. Good for you. That's a great skill. Fantastic. I want to watch the Nasty Boys falling down on accident. Like that's way more interesting to me.
Well, it's funny because you mentioned these wrestling promotions putting in the effort and not just being bad for the sake of being bad. Like when you watch the videos of World Wrestling Empire,
Yeah.
you can tell they are trying so very hard to put on like the best product possible. It's not very good, but they're trying.
Well, and as I'm watching it, so it's early 90s Tulsa, local access, shot in a bar or a VFW or something. And I'm rooting for them so hard because I'm just like, oh, like, I don't want to say they're close. They're not close to getting it, but boy, they're doing what they love. And that's what I love about it is, the most fun I was able to wrestle during different time periods. I wrestled for several years in the early 2000s. I wrestled for a few years in like the mid 2010s. And then I wrestled for a few years in the early 2020s. And every one of those time periods were vastly different. But throughout all of them, the most fun shows that I was ever on were always shows that were kind of a little like that, where it's like, boy, A for effort, guys, but oh my God, like, okay, hold on, let me help you.
I mean, I think what really makes me enjoy your videos is A, the use of sound effects that you have. And because like for example, I was watching this one video and you were talking about devastating rope jiggles, not to mention devastating foot jiggles. And in the background, you just hear whoop, 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 whoop. And it's your delivery that makes it great. And also the fact that you now seem to have a lot of quote unquote memes associated with your videos. For
Sure, yeah.
example, at the top of the show, I said kabuki, and I didn't just say
Mhm.
that to say it. This was
Yeah.
apparently something that Harley Race said. Like, what is the story behind that?
So in the early 2000s, like right as I was in the end of high school, and I was working at a movie theater, and I had a few friends, and we some of them left the movie theater, but we stayed friends, and we watched wrestling. Not a lot of current wrestling, but we like that was right around the time that the WWE was releasing a lot of DVD box sets, and the Ultimate Ric Flair box set came out, and we were always like, I'm not going to try to disparage anyone. I don't want to polarize anyone who might be a fan, but back then I was a genuine Ric Flair fan. I was so excited. Don't know that I could say that so much now, but back then I was a big fan, and we got the DVD set and we were going, of course we're watching all of it together. We're getting food and watching it. And we get to a chapter called, it was during the Harley Race Ric Flair feud because the whole thing was separated by feuds. And it was called Harley Race Puts Out a Hit. And it was Harley Race screaming about how, because Ric Flair was the good guy, how he didn't want to lose his belt to Ric Flair. And he's like, I'll give $25,000 to anyone who can eliminate Ric Flair from wrestling. And he does the worst thing you could do in a promo, which is start listing out names because you're going to draw a blank. And he does. He's just like, anyone, Paul Jones, you and your whole entourage of people. And there's a big pregnant pause, and you hear him take a breath in, and it's still pausing. He just goes, okay, the names go on and on. so that to us was always called a kabuki moment. Because, of course, we thought it was the funniest thing we'd ever seen. And so anytime we would be watching wrestling, like I remember I was at a pay-per-view. I used to do when we were doing one of the documentaries, we went to a WWE pay-per-view. And one of my friends from that time period was texting me. He's like, hey, you watching the pay-per-view? I was like, buddy, I'm at the pay-per-view. He's like, did you see Roman Reigns? Had a little bit of a kabuki moment there. And it's just like became our shorthand for when you don't know what to say, but you're on live TV and it's very obvious you don't know what to say next.
You talk about like fandom in your travels with that documentary. Did you get to meet like Vlad or the sign guy?
We went to well, they're not a company anymore, but Chikara. We went to several Chikara shows. I didn't meet Vlad or the sign guy that I remember, but we went to a lot of those shows. We went to the Northeast, like we went to Bethlehem, PA, and stuff like that. They were running shows. So I think we met a lot of more modern day versions, I guess, of those kind of 90s guys that we would always see on TV, and a little more focused on the indie scene. But the thing is, like, the times change, but humans kind of don't, right? I mean, so the sign guy is, that same spirit lives on every decade for some new person.
Okay. So now as you mentioned, you've done hybrid of acting and wrestling, which I mean, in a way, wrestling is just a form of acting.
Same thing, yeah.
And in my research, one of the things that I saw was a very, a very flattering picture of you dressed as Dr. Frankenfurter. And I'm like, oh my
Yeah,
God, he did Rocky Horror Show.
yeah,
What,
yeah.
what was the experience like playing such an outrageous character?
It's my favorite show. I've had the pleasure of doing that show and that role twice. I got to do it in 2011. I did it again in 2022, I think, or 23. I can't remember. But which was an interesting. kind of to have those signposts as an actor and a performer of like, wow, I feel a lot better at this now than I was when. So it was my first musical. So I came out. I had done a ton of plays. I came out of all kinds of what do you call lessons. You know, I had private coaches, and again, that sounds like I had money. I didn't. I was so poor, but I would find coaches that I could work with for, you know, $25 an hour, stuff like that, and I would save up and go to have acting lessons because part of my insecurity as a person and as a performer is manifests as well. If I can just be, if I can know everything, then I'll feel more confident, which isn't the case, right? But I was going through that phase, so I did a bunch of plays, and I always said I was so scared to sing. I was like, oh, I'll never do a musical, even though, you know, my father was a musician and there were, you know, lots of music in my family. I was always very nervous to sing, and I think at an early age they forced us to sing in the choir at school, and so I always faked it, and I was always afraid because I felt like that's knowledge I don't have. You have to know how to sing, and I don't know how. Not realizing that it's actually, unless you're tone deaf, you know, it's actually not that hard. To be great at it is hard, but to just sing fine is not bad. So I fell in love with Rocky Horror, the movie, obviously. And then I found out that there was a Broadway revival, and a friend of mine gave me some bootleg videos of it from the early 2000s. I was obsessed with it. I thought it was so good. And the town I was living in, they had auditions coming up. And I was like, oh my God, you have to do it. Like I was terrified, absolutely mortified. And they had auditions. So they had private auditions first, and that to me was even scarier because I was just in a room with, like, you know, a musical director and a director and the staff, and it just they're sitting behind a table staring at you. And on the way to the theater to do the audition, I stopped off at 7-Eleven, and they had it ties back to wrestling, oddly, they had WWE like Slurpee or soda cups or whatever. So I got a big gulp with Rowdy Roddy Piper on it. And I was always inspired by Piper. And I was like, okay, I'm bringing Piper with me. I got the cup, and I go in, and then I find out they have the auditions on the stage. So I have to go out in the spotlight, but there's enough light that I can see the whole staff sitting in the back row of the theater. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm dying. My leg was literally shaking. I couldn't stop it. So I'm doing my song, and I can see their silhouettes, but I can't see their faces. So I do my snippet. A cappella is the way they wanted to do it. So I do a snippet, and I'm shaking, and I'm like, well, I tried, you know, and they're like, we'd like to see you back tomorrow for the group audition. I was like, okay, holy crap, okay. So I go and I get ready, and I'm probably rehearsing too much, and I go and I audition. Well, as I'm auditioning, this woman walks in who I was immediately drawn to and connected with immediately. I can't even explain it. We just connected quickly. She ended up being cast as Janet. I was cast. I thought I was going to be Rocky. I ended up getting Frankenfurter, which was wild. And I apparently nailed it in the audition. I was the only one that really like did the character the way they wanted. And so we met on that musical. We were friends for a few years, and then I moved back from Chicago home. We got married. We stayed in touch. We did a lot of shows in between then.
Oh,
But
so it was a
uh,
showman's.
it
Oh,
was, and it worked out. We've been married ever since. We've done the show together again. She actually directed it that time, and I got cast as Frankenfurter again. Can't imagine, probably just raw talent is how I got it
oh well, of
again.
course, of course. You know, it's funny. I'm just imagining you standing on stage, and you have the Slurpee cup in your hand. You take a sip, and you're singing "Sweet Transvestite," and then you just hear, Mr. Parsons, that's a bitchin' cup you got there. Where'd you get that?
Yeah. Is that Rowdy Roddy Piper?
Piper? Is that right? Ask this man.
Well, it ended up working out. I mean, honestly, if I hadn't gotten the all role, I probably wouldn't have pursued musicals. But then I got stuck in a good way. I got stuck doing musicals for a long time, and that led me to directing. I've been directing for, this is my 10th year directing. You know, I've done film, and I do film work for my job, so I'm on sets directing all the time. But stage directing I've done for about 10 years, and you know, Rocky Horror to me. So we got tickets for my birthday. My wife got us tickets to see it on Broadway. We're going to see it in July. I'm very excited. It's at Studio 54. It's a show that it's so effing weird.
You'll
It's
have to
so
tell me
weird.
when you guys are coming so I could gate crash and be like, Kit, come
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I'll have to check sometime in the middle of July. I'll look. But we're seeing that. We're seeing Death of a Salesman. But my love for theater has never, my career has moved on different ways. I don't do it quite as much now. But I do film work for theater all the time. I do promo videos for theaters. I do them. I get paid to do them, but I also do them for free for smaller theaters just to help them, to volunteer and get the word out. And I serve on a marketing committee for a local theater that's just a small theater. And it's been the biggest part of my life. Our kids, our daughters, we have two daughters. They're adults now, almost. One's 19 and one's 17, and they both do theater. They grew up in the theater with us, and it's a shared experience. But Rocky Horror to me is a show that's probably always going to be the nearest to my heart.
Well, I speaking of just people near and dear to your heart, the most important question that I have: how's
Hmm.
Robert Reynolds doing?
I see. Uh, Difficult to negotiate with.
Hmm.
Nice enough and professional, but not anybody that wants to talk to you when we're not working. So I don't have a
I mean,
close relationship.
I'm gonna assume he just can't stand Mr. Chile anymore.
Yeah, it's really sick. Yeah, as the episodes go on, Robert Reynolds is getting less and less enchanted with the Titans of the Ring.
Oh, this this wrestling sucks. I can't believe it.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm gonna.
Mr. Chili's here. Great, he's back.
I'd rather do Smokey and the Bandit 4. Ugh. So, you said that you direct theater. Are you doing any directing in the near future, or
I
is
am. I have auditions at the end of next month, actually. I'm directing the stage adaptation of the movie Clue, the 1986 well, oddly enough, Tim Curry movie. Yeah, Clue.
it excellent?
Um, yeah, around the pandemic time, they adapted it to the stage, and then they adapted it to do like radio play style for theaters that needed stuff to do, and it translates perfectly. I've not directed it before. I was in a pandemic time like radio like live stream version of it, and I produced the show at a theater I was working for. So I'm directing it for the first time, and yeah, that'll be so. I'm here in Ohio, and I'm directing that. And then that's going to be probably the last show I direct here. We're looking to move to back to Chicago here in about a little under 2 years once our kiddos are graduated and everything. So I'll be taking my theatrical talents to the lakeshore, but that's I'm glad to go out with that one here because it's a fun one, and I'm hoping it's going to be a popular one.
Hmm. Well, I just want to say, since you're in Ohio, um, I'm so sorry that the Knicks pulverized Cavaliers.
I have to tell you, I love hockey. Hockey's my sport. I watch it every day that it's on, and some days that it's not on. But I watch the NHL, I watch the AHL, I watch the PWHL. I'm actually getting into the ECHL, which is even lower than the AHL. But I always tune into NBA around playoffs time. I always start getting really into it. When I lived in Chicago, I followed the Bulls, but I was rooting for the Knicks.
I mean, listen, I I'm an Islanders fan, so I do know pain, at least the
Yeah.
last 20 years or so.
Yes.
So it's like, oh boy, another
I
great
wanted it. Yeah.
Islanders season.
Yeah. Because the way, I mean, it's been 25 years or something, whereas 1999 or something last. So I was like, come on, man, Knicks, we got to do it. But I'm a Blackhawks fan. So I was there. I was living there during the good times, and the last 10 years have been the bad times. So I'm feeling the pain as well.
Oh, the pain of it all. But you can't give up so easily. You don't want to be like one of those fans that's like, oh,
Yeah.
I joined them when they were winning. If
Right. Right. Yeah,
yeah.
well, when they have the good times, that's what makes the bad times worth it. Because we went to the Blackhawks last game of the season, and boy, they just destroyed the Sharks, and it just felt so good. Like we were having a blast because like we had watched so many games that were just sad. I went to Columbus and watched them just get destroyed by the Jackets, and it was just sad to watch.
Mm.
So when they win, you're like, yeah, baby, we're back. You start playing in the Cup parade. We're back.
That does it. But yes, we excuse me, we are starting to run just a little bit at a time. I'm looking at the non-existent clock on my wall, and so we have time for one more question, and that question is something that I ask all of my guests. If someone were to come up to you and say, "Hey, Kit, I want to get into acting, wrestling, YouTube videos,
Yeah.
whatever the case, what would be the piece of advice that you would give them to best succeed?"
Well, obviously, those are three very different mediums, but there's one bit of advice that I think is true for all of them, and it's advice that I wish that I would have had, which is you do not have to wait for the perfect moment. You do not have to wait for the perfect idea. In fact, if you're waiting for the perfect time or the perfect idea to come to you or whatever it is, you'll never start. You'll probably never start because I have been, in my view at least, reasonably successful at all three of those things in my measurements, I suppose. You know, I mean, I get to do them all for, I've gotten at different times to do them all for a living. So I guess if you measure success that way, then sure. But I've become the performer I wanted to become in all those. And all of that happened after I started and just floundered and sucked for a long time. Like, so get the pain over with, just hop in. You'll never figure out who you are until you get in and get over that first initial phase of, you know, imitating whatever comedian or actor or whoever you like first to get your kind of get comfortable, and then you find your voice, but you'll never find it if you're not starting. So best advice, just start, get out there. There's absolutely a way to get started. If it's YouTube, just make something. Even if you want to make it unlisted for a while you try to figure it out, just start doing it and stay consistent. Same with wrestling. Go befriend someone who's already involved, or find a school, go sell tickets, tear tickets, set up the ring. I mean, and then with acting, same thing, just audition, just go audition. If you want to take a class and you want to feel better, go for it. That couldn't hurt, but just start talking to people and get in, because I've always gate kept myself. I've always thought, well, I'm not the right type of person for this, or those are more talented people than me. I can't. I regret every bit of it. Like, I'm about to go into a series of my career where I'm going to really get into much more seriously get into filmmaking. Then one reason why I held myself back, even though we've made award-winning films, I have a trophy on my desk from film festivals. You know, I still would tell myself that it's not for me. I can't do that. And I absolutely can. I spent the last 3 years working professionally in corporate media, and I'm just going to go start making stuff because I had all these ideas and I was waiting for the perfect time. Never going to come. Perfect time this summer. I'm starting.
Sounds good to me, man. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as our ending music takes us out, I want to thank my guest, Kit Parsons. Kit, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I just appreciate it. I love talking, as you can tell, and I'm very glad that we could connect in this way. And I'd love to talk anytime in the future you'd like to.
Absolutely. And ladies and gentlemen, we will catch you on the next episode. So long. Kabuki!
You gotta go on strong. Yeah, you gotta end it strong.